the patient base, the access, etc., to drive like-minded research projects. And I believe that the accelerator can be part of this and help drive this. So what are the offerings? I think here in Manchester, our business engagement and innovation strategy is where we believe industry and academia meet and to forge great opportunities. And the number such as facilities sharing, studentships, clinical trials, etc. And that drives that innovation that we're after. And I think ultimately, for me to end on, is the vision, which is, I believe, as a city, as a university, we draw upon and harness the entrepreneurial tradition of the university to attract and evolve and indeed develop and push and accelerate partnerships for scientific and health impact. And without a shadow of a doubt, this accelerator program shows how we can start that, we can facilitate you, we can guide you and help. Many thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, Paul, for that presentation. So now we're going to move on to having a presentation from Andy Wilkinson, who is the Chief Executive Officer for University of Manchester Innovation Factory. And Andy is going to cover commercialization and engagement with academia.
Thanks very much, Daniel. First of all, we are really delighted to be part of this program, and we hope in the field that we work in, which is the commercialization of university intellectual property, that we will be able to support the SME community in Greater Manchester. I run an organisation called the University of Manchester Innovation Factory, and we are the technology transfer group of the university, and we work across all of the university's 3 faculties, but particularly strong areas for activity for us are the Faculty of Biology, Medicine and Health and the Faculty of Science and Engineering. And I think with the SMEs that we're going to be engaging with on this program, I think we're going to get collaborations and opportunities to work with us in both of those faculties, and there may well be opportunity coming out of the Faculty of Humanities as well. So what do? We take intellectual property ideas, innovations that have been developed at the university, and that can lead to all sorts of IP. It can be patented inventions, it can be data, it can be know-how, software, and we turn those into high-value spin-out businesses and licensing opportunities as well. And because we're working in that interface between industry and academia, we come across a lot of very entrepreneurial academics. We come across a lot of companies. We come across sources of finance, and being at that interface gives us a lot of experience as to some of the things that you need to do to take really good innovative ideas and then turn them into products and services that create future value. And we also have teams in place that not only understand the science, but have also got commercial experience as well. And we have other specialist experts within the organization that could be really beneficial for SMEs wishing to launch new products and services into the market. So what are we really interested in? Well, we're not interested in filing lots of patents. What we are interested in is creating positive social and economic impact, and no better way to do that than to work with the SME community in Greater Manchester and help you take your ideas and your innovations and take them out and get future patient benefit. And that is a huge motivating force for our organisation. As I said, we work with an enormous number of academics, but they tend to be academics that are very much interested in taking their inventions and their research and doing something positive with it. So when we engage with those people, we're already pushing at an open door, and they will all be very interested in how they work with companies to take some of their products to market, and also sharing some of their experiences around not only the science, but also their experience of innovation as well. We work a lot with industry, both smaller companies and larger companies. We work with entrepreneurs, we work with licensees, and we also work with sources of funding, and can also give insights in the best way to raise funding, particularly venture and investment funding, from the markets as well to support the innovation process. What are we going to be doing in this? So, I mean, first of all, we're going to be facilitating access to university intellectual property and innovations. We have about 450 active patent families in the university, and there may well be intellectual property that could be of value to the SMEs. So kind of making you aware of that, making you aware of innovative activity that's going on at the universities, and linking up SMEs with particular academic groups which may have relevance to a particular business's activity. We can also give advice on commercialization. As I said, a lot of my team have worked in industry before. All they do all day is take ideas and move them into a position where we can create future impact. So certainly having people to talk to share some experiences, to gain some knowledge from different industry sectors might be useful to the SMEs that we will be working with. And because, of course, we work in intellectual property, we can also help SMEs look at their own intellectual property and work out strategies to maximize the value from that, or to protect it. There will be two people within my organization who will be focusing on this specifically. One will be our Director of Operations, and we've also allocated full-time a Senior Project Manager who will be supporting this activity. Let's just have a look at the way we work, because hopefully it will give you an insight into what our business processes are, and how as SMEs you can engage with us. So we've put in place a process which allows us to capture these ideas, often in a very raw form, and take them all the way through to something where we can generate economic and social impact. What does that mean? Licensing, creation of new companies, launching new products. So we start with a very classic stage 8 process. So we have research over here on the left-hand side, a whole range of different projects and activities, and we push it through a process whereby we try and spot value, future value, very, very early. We then build up business plans. We then go through a commercial development phase where we're looking at how do we get investment for a particular business, how do we protect the intellectual property, how do we engage with customers, and then we go through a sort of deal phase where we're basically doing deals with companies. So as you can see, within the organization, we have expertise in a broad range of areas, and therefore, once again, hopefully we'll be in a position to give some advice in all of those activities along the kind of innovation pathway. In terms of our organization, we're broken down into 4 component parts. We have an operations group. They're responsible for opportunity capture and evaluation, and they're people that have a really good fundamental understanding of lots of different kinds of technologies, and that can be hugely beneficial. Sometimes we will have somebody that's very good at electronics working with somebody who's very good at understanding molecular biomarkers, and if you actually start putting those people together, and they've also got a knowledge of industry and how to take products to market, that team can be quite a potent force in terms of supporting companies, evaluating a problem, looking at the best way of launching a product. They have experience in business plans, development of commercialization plans, the choice about routes to markets, how to engage with customers, some of the thinking around how to go and develop prototypes, doing financial and return on investment modeling as well, and also fundamental to what we do, developing really secure IP strategies as well. You know, how with intellectual property do we commercialize it as effectively as possible? How do we protect what we have to gain the maximum value from it? This is what the organization looks like. As I said, the people in green are going to be Louise Farrand, our operations director, will be spending a good portion of her time focused on this product, and we will also have a senior product manager in life sciences fully dedicated to this project. But all the people in yellow, although we won't be directly funding them from this program, we'll also expect them to contribute as well. So people involved in biotechnology, a lot of people who've got specific life science expertise, and we also have here a team which is dedicated to essentially protecting and identifying opportunities to create new intellectual property. Then we have a business development group, and their function is launching our spin-out companies, securing investment and funding, And it could also be beneficial for them to have engagement with the SME community as well, because if a smaller company is looking at raising funding, they can have input into that, and they can perhaps share some experience or share some of the networks that we have in the venture funding community or the corporate venturing community. Once again, in terms of who can support this project, everybody in yellow, I think, can have a positive impact on that. But we have got a group here who are dedicated to health and life sciences. We also have a broader group. So within this, finance, HR, legal services, and once again, these are all people that can contribute and help support the SMEs working in this program. Very interestingly, here we've got some legal expertise. So once again, having some thoughts about contractual structures, etc., is an area where we could bring some benefits. And also, finally, we have a comms group, and once again, thoughts, ideas, sharing information about how best to promote products. This group can also have some input into that as well. Ultimately, of course, for companies, we want to make money, we want to create shareholder value, but we also want to do good things for patients as well. And the kind of the social impact for us is really, really important. And we think the best way to do that is to take really good inventions, really good high value intellectual property, and get it into a position where it can actually go into clinics and be used by patients and to benefit people. So thank you very much. And we're really looking forward to being part of this program, and we're looking forward to working with you.
Fantastic, Andy. Thank you very much for that presentation. It's incredible to see the resource that companies will have available as part of this project. Now I'm going to introduce now to Lloyd Gregory. Dr. Lloyd Gregory is the Academic Partnerships Director at Health Innovation Manchester. And he's going to talk about the university's assets and expertise and the benefit of collaborating with academia. So over to you, Lloyd.
Thank you, Daniel. And thank you everyone for having me here today. I have the privilege of working with all 4 universities across Greater Manchester, and I spend a lot of time learning about their assets and their expertise, and so that we can bring it in a combined way, in a way that's complementary, not too competitive in terms of one another, and to greater effect and enhance the health and well-being of our society. So Paul and others have done a great job of kind of already highlighting the benefits of being working with academic partnerships, but we do believe it's an important jigsaw piece for successful innovation, and it sits most definitely at the heart of what Health Innovation Manchester is doing. It sits at the heart of this programme, and it is an integral part of enhancing and improving the health and well-being of our population. It
doesn't appear that you're sharing the screen.
Oh, sorry. Have I not? Bear with me a minute. Oh, gosh. Continue. There we go. Can you see that? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's working well.
Okay. So right. So I think what we have traditionally is kind of opportunities where we've had an NHS organisation or university organisation working together that produces some output. We also, if we think about how we work with industry, we can increase the output and the wealth accordingly. But actually, if we align our collaborations to the needs of our population, then we really do start to have a massive impact on both economic and collaborative opportunities. And this again is a real opportunity for this program to really get to that purple bubble and really enhance what we're doing collectively as a system. So our 4 academic partners that we work with are the University of Salford, Manchester Metropolitan, University of Bolton, and of course the University of Manchester. Now, all of those partners will be able to give identical talks to those of Paul and Andy about their assets, and I'm really excited to learn that in the new year we're going to bring those organisations together to actually present to you, some of their key assets and facilities that are available to you as SMEs. So I'm going to talk to you primarily in general terms for the rest of my presentation about some of the things that they can do together. So I'm going to break it down into 3 main sections: access to world-leading expertise, state-of-the-art infrastructure, and navigating the academic research and innovation management systems, which, if you're outside, can be a little bit daunting and a little bit scary. But actually, with the right people holding your hand, it's actually quite a simple process. So just to start with the access to world-leading expertise, as Paul and others have alluded to, across our 4 universities, we have a plethora of world-leading experts. We have a sound community of key opinion leaders in their own fields, both nationally and internationally. That therefore means that when you work with them, you can be guaranteed of a robust study design and very, very high quality content expertise. This in turn means that you can create a relevant and robust evidence base, which is often what, if you want to get into into the NHS, that's what commissioners want to see. They want to see that there's a nice, robust evidence base there to accelerate or to back or fund an innovation from outside the NHS. Again, you have academic credibility and you have kite marks of quality associated with, these organisations. Certainly the University of Manchester and the NHS and its NHS partners have recently been accredited as an academic health science centre, which is it's quite a unique club. Up till this year, there were only 6 in the country for the last 10 years. They've just extended that by a further 2. To increase the expertise across across England, and of course, what we don't think about is the academic networks that our academics have. So, Paul's alluded to strategic partners, but each of those will have collaborators that they work with. So there's often a further opportunity for collaboration with others once you're on kind of connected to a university partner. So then access to state-of-the-art infrastructure. And again, this is not, this list is far longer than those things that I've written here. But you have access to, as I say, state-of-the-art imaging, biomarker discovery. Paul alluded to the Stoller a few minutes ago, rapid translation facilities. An area where all 4 of our universities shine is in evaluation expertise. They're all capable of providing high quality evaluations. There's implementation expertise. So once you have that evaluation conducted, how do you then implement that into the NHS? And again, there's expertise within Health Innovation Manchester, and our academic partners to ensure that you get the right expertise to implement your innovation more widely across health and care partners. Simulation suites, these are brilliant. Salford University in particular has amazing simulation suites where you might not necessarily be able to get onto a ward or something. You can actually go to these simulation suites and conduct testing as if you were on a ward. So again, it's a really neat place for evaluating innovation. 3D printing for prototyping of innovations. Again, Manchester Met has a fantastic 3D printing setup. It's called Print City, and that is an amazing place for if you really want to get into 3D printing. But all 4 of them have access to 3D printing. Digital health solutions, again, you've heard a lot about this afternoon. Proteomics, metabolomics, all the omics, again, are available across a number of our academic partners. as well as access to GMP labs as well. So if you're going down that road, it's good to know that there are labs available. And then finally, kind of navigating the academic research management systems. So again, Andy's talked about intellectual property at the University of Manchester, Manchester Met, University of Salford, University of Bolton will be able to do that as well. So again, we're increasing our pool of expertise across the 4 universities. Contracting is another thing that often gets in the way of innovation. So we've designed and smoothed and streamlined contracting processes, as well as costing processes as well. So again, you're not hanging around for months on end to get the cost of an academic's time or a postdoc's time. That's all sorted and easily and readily available. Navigating ethics and regulatory approvals, if you go down the sort of device or clinical trial route, then knowing how to navigate that is absolutely key. And we have systems and processes set up across the 4 universities to manage that, as well as advice on research governance sponsorship if you're going to go down the sort of clinical trials or device routes. That's absolutely key, and it can be a minefield unless you've got somebody holding your hand and helping you out with that. Support for managing clinical trials. Well, again, I think Paul alluded to the Manchester Clinical Trials Unit. That is a fantastic setup for supporting any clinical trial. It takes the headache and the worry out of PI's hands in terms of keeping up with all the regulatory requirements associated with that, which are many. So having a unit that can actually hold your hand through that is absolutely key, and is really appreciated by those that are working in clinical trials. Biobanking facilities across the universities, across the NHS trusts. We have access to a number of biobanking setups, which cover a very large percentage of sort of diseases, etc., that you might where you might want to access samples. And again, Paul and others have talked about the digital informatics and innovation support that there is, not just at the University of Manchester, but again at the other universities as well. So there's a real opportunity to cover a lot of things and get help where needed across some of these potential bottlenecks. I think, yeah, that's me done.
Okay, thank you very much, Lloyd, for that presentation. And it's amazing to see that expertise that we have across the 4 universities. We will be doing a follow-on event somewhere around February, where we're going to invite all the universities to dive into the detail of the academic expertise. Right, we're now moving on to Rory Cameron. Rory is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Gendius, and it's a company that's been working with Health Innovation Manchester for a number of years now. So they can't accept to share the story, and it's over to you, Rory.
Thanks, Daniel. Can you hear me all right and see the slides?
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. Well, yeah, so I suppose I'm here to give some examples of the last 5 years of how we've been working together. But the one thing that struck me is how things are moving on at pace. I mean, I've taken loads of notes during Paul, Andy and Lloyd's sessions, and there's tons of different things I want to get involved with. But to give you some background, so we work in the prevention of complications of chronic disease area. So that's where we are. And our first product we brought to market is in the diabetes space. And we chose diabetes because, many people know it's a huge market, a huge problem. But what many people don't know is around the complications of diabetes. So it's the #1 cause of blindness, #1 cause of kidney failure, #1 cause of lower limb amputation. And it has a big increase in your risk of having a heart attack or stroke. So when you talk about the emotional journey people go through with diabetes, this is the real piece. So it's whether you can prevent some of these long-term complications. And the other area we work on, the reason we work in there is because of the costs. So, globally, this is the same everywhere. About 10% of the healthcare budget is spent on diabetes. It's the same in the UK. 10 billion a year, but 80% of those costs are due to the complications. So this is why we set up our company based on my co-founder's experience of being diagnosed with diabetes. And just quickly, in terms of what we've got, is we have an app-based platform, so that's on the right-hand side of the screen, where the individual can input data either manually or via a whole host of connected devices, everything from blood pressure results to weight and to measure their BMI. And we look at the metabolic disease as a whole. And from that, we then use algorithms and AI to predict their individual risk of developing complications. And then we provide them with individual hints and tips of how they can prevent those. And this is then all linked to a secure dashboard. So anything they do, they can share with the healthcare team. Healthcare team can share it back to the patient. And then we're also connected to the electronic health record. So the thing I would say is, we nowhere near had this when we started this journey 5 years ago, and we started the whole discussions with Health Innovation Manchester. So it was a very different picture. But I just wanted to give you a sense of the space we're in and what we're doing before I went through some of the bits. So early on, I think it's the same with everyone who's in an SME or has a novel idea. For us, it was about developing evidence. So how could we prove our ideas? There was a piece around how do we develop a working concept. So in our case, initially, there was no dashboard, it was just the app. So how could we do something around there? The other key thing for us was, and I know this being a co-founder, CEO, is having the belief that something's going to work is great, but having that belief with others involved in the same idea is even stronger. So, you sort of move from having your own crazy idea to then suddenly having a whole load of disciples with you on the same mission. And that changes things in a lot of areas, but including it changes things in terms of attracting finance. Because over our 5-year journey with what we've done with Health Innovation Manchester, the whole background to that is how do you keep going? How do you keep financing? And what do you do next? So we'll talk a little bit about the evidence piece. A key part around gaining evidence for us has been the ability for Health Innovation Manchester to get us access to individuals. So, when we've looked at NHS Trust sponsorship of programs, so whether that's through grant applications or projects we've done with Innovate UK or SBRI, they've had a fantastic ability through my discussions with Daniel in particular, but Richard and others as well at Health Innovation Manchester, of saying who to go and speak to. So lining up key clinicians in the area we're interested in who have a proven track record of delivering against some of these projects. So cutting through all the different names and people and really putting you in front of the right people. I think the other thing there is nearly all the trials or funding routes we've gone, nearly all of them have required some sort of academic sponsorship. And the first time we did this, we really didn't know where to go. And of course, people didn't know us. So there was a slight reticence that, how much work we're going to have to put in to do an application if you're not going to win it. And, and who are you? So again, those connections through Health Innovation Manchester to get us in front of people in R&D, in various trusts, hospitals, etc., were fantastic. And again, discussions like today, where we've got even more people around the table now, all helping. Other areas for us were GPs with specialist interest or CCG leads in specific areas, because again, doing things with academia on a secondary care basis is great. But if you actually want to roll out your innovation into the front line and get everyone involved, you really need those key stakeholders who sort of are responsible for those therapy areas or disease areas at CCG level, etc. So for us, again, the diabetes leads. And again, Health Innovation Manchester were really fantastic at being able to get in front of people, to tailor and tweak and change what we were doing, to listen to them. And then we got involved in the whole eco structure. And again, these are other groups that, are all part of the discussion today, but Northwest eHealth with regards to the Salford Lung study that's been talked about, but in terms of accessing real life primary care data, lots of discussions with them. We were involved in the discussions around connected health cities very early on. the Northern Health Science Alliance, and then HERC as an institute, again, looking at, what we're doing around data, etc. So Manchester's got this fantastic setup with regards to universities, particularly around data, and data's like gold dust, particularly if you go outside of the UK where everyone's wanting quality data. But that ability, not just to be able to get data, but to track patients from primary care to secondary care, all these things, when you get into the detail of it, Manchester's in a great place, and we can access some of that. For us also, the unique thing we found with Health Innovation Manchester and what we were doing there was the access to funds, because everyone can tell you from an academic health science network point of view that their role is to help you with that interface into the NHS. But the problem you always have is, well, that's great, but who's going to pay, or who's going to help us, or how do we get over the next lump in terms of development? So we've had a lot of help here. I mean, all of it's been competitive. So we've all had to, we've been rejected a lot of times as well, and we've won a few things as well. So that's all part of it. But, all our UX, UI research we did. So and I'll come on to how well things are going now, but, we now have nearly 500,000 downloads of our platform. We've got really good retention on it as well. And a lot of that is based off the initial UX, UI research we did through a grant through Health Innovation Manchester with patients in Manchester. So we took them through the platform, we looked at what we were doing, took all the views of what worked well, what didn't, what they would like to see, all these types of things. And again, more recently, we won a Momentum grant, which has helped us with our data collection. So we've been accessing 10-year longitudinal data sets across metabolic disease to really beef up our algorithms. And again, we're just about to publish data on that. But again, we've used a PhD data scientist from Manchester who's come in and worked for us for 6 months as well. So the whole ecosystem has really worked well. And then at the end of the day, it's about access, which is for me, was the first reason we went in. But I didn't anticipate the journey we'd need to go through. So, we have a pilot now ongoing in Oldham, CCG. We've had many trusts involved in terms of different grant applications. So Salford Royal being a key one in 2 different grants that we've applied for. And then the other nice thing about this is everyone understands that getting a pilot, which may be free, so everyone's just putting time in, what happens at the end. And again, the great thing and how things are being thought through in Manchester is it's all about, can you prove the concept, demonstrate that the population will benefit and that we can save money out of the system, which is of everyone's interest. And then by doing that, will Greater Manchester then commission the project over 3.2 million of the population? So that's like where you're trying to get to. And there's no promises, but at least you have the facility to be able to work through that. And for me, it's really very much about the snowball effect. And the snowball effect impacts in loads of different areas. But the main one for me is around the funding that you need to attract behind the scenes. So, those initial discussions with Health Innovation Manchester have then enabled us to then get into having discussions with other academic health science networks down in London, down in Liverpool, and looking at the higher up on the Northwest Coast. We've then ended up having these discussions and grant applications into Innovate UK and SBRI and been successful with those. Our first one being a £500,000 grant that transformed our business and enabled us then to attract £500,000 in VC funding into the company as well. So, these academic partnerships add so much more, and they link into what Andy was saying around the IP and the commercial strategy. There's so many things there that if I did it again, I would be approaching all of these people to find out what I could be doing. And for me, it's then that eyes on the prize, as I talked about. So for us, I'll go on to where we're having success outside the UK at the moment. But for me, it's all about how can I provide a solution for Greater Manchester that's going to benefit, the population, my family, and other people who live around here. And how can we shout about that and talk about the IP and other things that we've created. And just to give you some flavor in terms of, the success and how we've moved on in the last 5 years. And this all stems from this initial, Innovate UK grant that we got through a project with Salford Royal. And then also how well we've done with the platform is based on that initial UX UI research we did through Health Innovation Manchester. So, we're now in a place where over, nearly 500,000 downloads of the platform. This summer, we did a crowdfunding campaign. We're one of only 5 companies ever to go over 800% overfunded. But all of it is based on the ability to work through and prove the concept and develop, the evidence for what you're doing. And we're now in a great situation where we have, commercial contracts, so a master service agreement with AstraZeneca with an initial project in the Gulf States, and projects in many other markets as well. The thing I'd leave you with is just, I firmly believe in this. So everyone on the call has skin in the game. So everyone has something to lose as well as they have something to gain. And so what everyone's really after is to understand where the success is going to come from. So what if they're going to put their money anyway, which at the end of the day, from a taxpayer's point of view, is all of ours anyway, where are the likely areas of success? And I think if you can deliver what you said you'd deliver, if you can demonstrate the success, then slowly it becomes easier because of this whole mantra around, success has many fathers. So soon you get into that space where people are wanting to approach you because they know you'll deliver and they'll know you can really add value to the whole situation. So I'd like to say thanks very much again for asking me to come along. Hopefully I've given a bit more substance around examples of how things can really work. And thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, Rory. It's been incredible to see things from your lens, and thank you for sharing this experience with everyone on the call. Right, so we're now moving on to Dr. Brendan McGrath, who is a consultant anaesthetist at the Manchester University Foundation Trust. Going to give us some views on collaborating, NHS and SMEs collaborating, and his perspective on this.
Thank you very much. So, yes, my name's Brendan McGrath. My day job is an anaesthesia intensive care consultant working at Wythenshawe, one of the big hospitals in the south of the city. I also spend about half my time doing various research projects. And up until probably about February, March time this year, I was spending the bulk of my time on the ICU, which is a fairly technological place of work where we spend a lot of time artificially supporting patients, their organs, keeping them alive, monitoring them very intensely. And so we're very used to technological innovations and companies providing services and equipment for us to help sort of develop some of the services that we have. Obviously, in February, March time, things changed a lot. And what I'm going to talk about is how we've benefited from the sorts of environments and the sort of connections that these programs can enable us to have with SMEs. I'm going to talk about a project that helped us out in some of the problems that we've had through COVID-19. So my nice, pleasant working environment changed pretty much overnight into having to wear industrial FFP3 face masks and all the things that went with it, pretty much non-stop, which isn't much fun. That's me on the left. That's another little suit that we had to wear from time to time. And it takes its toll. I'm not a very good looking chap, but when you start to apply all these other things to your face gets pretty trashed pretty quickly. And this was me sort of getting away with it, really. There's lots of my colleagues looked an awful lot worse than that. It hampers communication with each other, it hampers communication with our patients. And so we very much had a problem right in front of us around supply, availability, and then the usability of the PPE that we had to wear. And it wasn't just us in intensive care, it was pretty much across the hospital environment. And the problem that we've got on the front line is that we don't always know where to turn for solutions. Sometimes solutions exist, and within our networks in Manchester, we have facility for matchmaking schemes to find existing solutions. But where there aren't existing solutions, we need to invent new things. And I'm going to talk for a few minutes about a project called Bubble Papa, which is what I've spent most of the last 6 or 7 months involved in. This was born out of an existing collaboration that we had with a SME called Designing Science, which was a partnership with the hospital I work in with some input from the university. So we already had a relationship from an existing NIHR funded project, which was born out through an earlier pilot study. So exactly the sort of pathway that's already been described. We had existing relationships, but we're able to turn to those relationships in the current pandemic. And in terms of what's in it for me as a frontline clinician, well, I need rapid access to solutions. I need a pathway to helping me work out how we're going to get to answer some of these problems. There's a lot of expertise that me and my colleagues on the front line clearly don't have, even within the wider hospital or the R&I department. We don't have that expertise necessarily. And certainly in the time of COVID, it's time that I don't have. So we need to bring in some external expertise. So the team was rapidly put together with some of those people on the screen there, with some leadership from the university, some technical design engineering expertise, again, from Glenn Cooper in the engineering department, Patrick Hall, who leads designing science, and some other colleagues who've come in from other SMEs and companies to help us form this collaboration to try and solve some of these problems. The work that we did was to try and explore better ways of wearing PPE, and you might have seen these on the TV, where people are walking around with these space helmets on. They're called PAPRs, powered air purifying respirators, and they're a lot more pleasant to wear than industrial face masks. You can see your face, you can talk a lot easier in them, people can see you, we can hear each other. But our challenge was to design a PAPR that was suitable for use in these high stakes, high risk clinical environments that we were having to wear them in. And that's what the team turned their attention to with early designs such as this, saying, you know, would something like this work? And the challenge in our team was trying to work out how we could take a drawing like this into something that we could do as soon as possible. And so initially we started to think about these concepts of something that was worn around your neck, that was disposable, that would keep us safe, but keep us comfortable at the same time. This is Andy, one of the designers from Designing Science, who, because of lockdown, was trying out a load of these things in his home, trying to work out, could they come up with some concepts and designs that could help move these ideas forward. And then with further input then from the university, we were able to think about turning those initial designs into actual concepts. And this is some very early design work that we did, trying to work out how can we take these ideas into reality. So in terms of what's in it for an SME, obviously Rory's outlined some of the key benefits that he's found, but what has impressed me all the way through this journey of the last few months is that everyone really wants to help us out. So it's a real chance to help out staff and directly or indirectly help out patients. And that's something that I often forget in my job. It's a privilege to be able to help people. And although it sounds a bit corny, I think that's a really important message. But I guess more on a practical level, it's rapid access to some of the problems we face, rapid access to staff at the core face, rapid access to patients, and also the wider healthcare system. And so an example of this, when we had our sort of 3D printed CAD designs, we're able to take them into the ICU and do a lot of virtual fittings with staff who were in the middle of a clinical shift. We could try out different sizes, different designs. We could work out what fitted, what didn't fit. We did a lot of virtual tests. So this is Andrew from Designing Science, who's talking directly to colleagues on the ICU, showing us designs for how the airflow might work in these hoods. And so we can, rapidly test this stuff out. And just outside that door is where all the patients are. We had input from the infrastructure around Manchester. So the Manchester Metropolitan University has the Manchester Fashion Institute, who are really helpful, pick up a phone and say, look, do we need one size? We need lots of sizes. Rapid access to the systems and the expertise that we've got in Manchester. This led to further design at home and at the university, and then tried and tested at work, which led on to some early prototypes, which, although I look like something out of Mars Attacks, is a vast improvement on wearing an industrial mask strapped to your face for 12 hours, I can assure you. So the other infrastructure that we've got in the city and in our health ecosystem allowed us to access small project funds through Health Innovation Manchester, the university, and through my own trust. And so the sort of funding we've been able to access, you can see on the screen there, Oxford Road Corridor, Health Innovation Manchester, the charitable and capital funds from my hospital, and EPRC competitive grants that we applied for. quite a lot of in-kind support costs, mainly from people working on the project for free. Now, Rory alluded to the fact that, you know, this represents somewhat of a gamble for people who currently haven't been paid for a lot of the design and engineering work that they've put into this project. But, you know, if you back the right horse, we realised quite quickly that we'd certainly be able to make our design and production costs back on this venture. So by thinking about how we could fund this program and people generously giving their time up front, we were able to develop a product which is going to turn into something useful. The commercialization strategy involved filming. This is our sim suite at MFT, maybe not as good as the one at Salford, but not bad. We're able to use this as a backdrop for our filming, but also to run staff through their paces because we wanted to know, did this thing work? Did it protect staff doing the sort of roles that we're having to do in COVID? So we can simulate an intensive care environment, simulate a cardiac arrest, put staff through their paces and film it and work out in a safe, controlled environment whether our product, the design iterations that we ended up with, was actually going to solve the problems that we had in the first place. And so that led to a launch as a press release over the summer, further funding, further engagement with companies, and now plans to roll this out widely in this country and almost certainly beyond. So we've been featured on the local news, and these are some of my colleagues wearing some prototype versions of the Papa, all with positive feedback. And even if you look at that and think it still doesn't look much fun to wear, I can remind you of what the alternatives are like. And I think in a very rapid time, with the expertise that has been provided from our SME partners and also from the infrastructure in Greater Manchester through a lot of these initiatives that you've heard about already, we've been able to take a clinical problem at the front line happening to people like me right in front of our face and solve it, basically. So that's what I think is in it for me as a clinician, rapid access to the help and resources provided from SMEs. And I'd encourage you to think about getting involved and helping us out, because we've got more than one problem. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Brendan. And yes, I did see you on the telly, on the BBC News at 10. Right, so we're going to move now to our last guest speaker. So Aline Miller is the Chief Executive Officer Director and Founder for Manchester Biogel, and she's going to talk through the experience in spinning out from academia.
Hi, thank you very much, Daniel, for the introduction and also for the opportunity to talk to everybody today. So it's really hard to follow such a great talk and such an impressive, fast turnaround of solving an immediate problem within the NHS. But I want to tell you a little bit about our journey and how we have gone from being an academic group based in chemical engineering and the Manchester Institute of Biotechnology, and having spent 20 years as being an academic, and actually then turning a sort of our commercial or academic idea into sort of a commercial enterprise. So I'm not going to talk about the science at all today, but more just talk about our journey and some of the experiences that we've had and some of the things that have helped trigger us to sort of grow and push towards being a commercial success. And that's a journey that we're still on, I have to say. So our company is called Manchester Biogel. We are a materials-based company. We make and sell peptide hydrogel materials, and therefore to be used as a three-dimensional cell scaffold for use in vitro in the laboratory, to either look at tissue regeneration problems, or to look and build healthy and diseased tissue models to do drug discovery testing. And the problems that we are trying to solve in the marketplace, we want to replace the current market leader, which is an animal-derived product, with our materials, which are synthetic. They're fully reproducible and give you reliable results, and also save the researchers time. So that's all I'll say about the science. So I was asked to talk a little bit about our sort of experience of being a sort of a spin-out company. We're actually not technically a spin-out. We are a startup company. So we are, as I said, sort of design and manufacture the peptide hydrogels. But in 2013-14, when we realised that there was a need to sell our materials an open market space, we looked to try to spin out, but it seemed quite a difficult process, and that will have changed with the Innovation Factory now. So we decided to create a startup company. So we owned at that time 100% of the company, myself and the co-founders. And then we licensed the technology that we developed at the University of Manchester from the university into the company. So we set up license agreements for our IP and also our know-how. We, at that point, decided to start the company. I'll tell a little bit about the company journey at Alderley Park in Cheshire, purely because I live locally and I fancied a shorter commute, to be perfectly honest. And we've now grown the company. We're now 9 full-time staff, so we're still small and we're still growing. But we have made a significant difference, and I'll show you our timeline in a second. As an academic who has obviously all my experience of working within R&D environments within the university, I wanted to try to keep the relationship with the academics, because I understood how important it was for us to be able to innovate and continue to innovate. We cannot stand still with our product and our product development. But also we came across several problems that we didn't know how to solve. We didn't have the resource to solve as a company in-house. So I could see the added benefit of being able to effectively dial in help from the academic community who had all the resources at their fingertips. And essentially what we needed to do was just find some funding for personnel, such as the postdoc grants or tickets that are available through this initiative. So I think it's brilliant that you'd be able to dial into a whole host of different expertise to solve individual problems within your business. Essentially in a timely fashion, so you find the solution and can move forward. So as I said, we work a lot with academia. So the company holds 11 PhD case awards across the UK and Ireland. We have 5 in Manchester, with the rest elsewhere. We have got 1 Innovate Knowledge Transfer Partnership grant with Imperial College, and we've just got 1 Innovate Grant Sustainability Fund Award with 2 other SMEs, QKine and Celeste, to sort of build and strengthen our product portfolio. And we've got 2 small EPSRC funded network grants. So we are heavily, as a company, involved in continuing our innovation, but doing that through the university, so we don't have that big R&D budget spend so much ourselves. So I thought it would be useful to sort of share a little bit about our journey and some of the things that we've found along the way. So as ever with SMEs, things never are short timelines. So we started this work, myself and my co-founder, when we both started lectureships in Manchester back in 2002. This is just showing you my age now. But we developed our material platform technology that we now license through the IP and the know-how, as I said earlier. And it took us a good 15, 18 years to develop, and we continue to develop all through Manchester University. We founded the company basically on the back of an envelope. This is a design we came up with after sharing a bottle of wine one night, and we decided to call ourselves Petrogel Design. And at that point, we engaged with a lawyer based in Manchester, and he helped us negotiate our license agreement in return for some shares in the company, because at that point the company had 0 money. That allowed us then to get some seed funding from venture capital company, D-Bridge Capital. So we got 150k from them with SEIS funding. That allowed us to open, at that point, a cupboard of a lab and an office in a tiny corner within Alderley Park. Of course, that's the ex-AstraZeneca site in Cheshire. At that point, we tentatively launched our first product series, which were called Petrogels. So these are the peptide hydrogels that are essentially the scaffold for the cells to go into, grow onto, and do what the cells need to do. So we launched those products. We started generating some revenues, very small. At that point, we realised we had running out of money. So we went and through the help actually that was offered through Alderley Park, through what's called the Accelerator programme. And at this point, I realised and also our new funders, Kira, who are private investors, realised that either myself or the co-founder needed to come in and sort of lead the business, because we needed the technical expertise in the business. So I don't know if I drew the long straw or the short straw, but I at that time went on sabbatical and went in and take on the CEO role within the company. So at that point I secured 750k of investment from private investors, Kiro. That allowed us to sort of rebrand. So that's when we became Manchester Biogel, Manchester to reflect where the technology comes from, Biogel to reflect what we actually sell. And that really allowed us to sort of take a step back and allowed us to work on the business rather than just simply day-to-day in the business. That made me realise what we need to do is do lots of collaboration. We can't stand still. We've got to innovate. We've got to also demonstrate the use of our product. So that's building the evidence that our product is worthy, it's better than the current alternatives on the market. And also then thinking longer term, what clinical applications can our materials actually be applied to? And this is when also sort of I met with Daniel, and he helped introduce me to lots of different sort of clinical partners within Innovation Manchester. Even though I was an academic already in Manchester, I didn't, of course, you don't know everybody, and this sort of helped open a new sort of community to the company that we could take advantage of. So we got 2 clinical projects on the go, but of course that's never enough for money. So we realised we built up our evidence, built up our pipeline in terms of application of products, and then we built up through collaborations with other academics, the studentships, PDRA, to help demonstrate the use of our product and build that evidence and build our portfolio of marketing material, but also proof for longer term issues, and allowed us to open the door to understand what the clinical needs are, so we can then work to design our material to solve the clinical needs. That needs further money. So I went back to our current investors and we got 1.5 million from D-Bridge Capital. They believed in what we were doing. We also took in a third partner, Catapult Ventures, the Greater Manchester and Cheshire Life Science Fund. So they have bought into our growth strategy as well. And that has allowed us not only to leverage further funding to innovate and also further PhD projects, but also allowed us to sort of scale up our technology, scale up our production, meet the current market demand, and launch a new set of products, Pepta Inks, into the market. This is where we're adapting the gels for bioprinting. So this is essentially where we are. We're still on a growth trajectory. We're building the team up to 12 as of next year, which reflects our growth in revenues. We're still an investment company, so we are still not profitable as of yet, but that's in the future plans. So in summary, I've got a lot of experience of working across that academic industry boundary with both an academic hat but also an industrial hat, and trying to understand how best to work with academics to get the quick, fast turnaround answers that you need as a company, but also as an academic. Well, what is in it for me? What do I get out of it? So I can help from either aspect, from the industry or the university side, and help push to get the most out of that collaboration. So at that point, I'll say thank you very much for listening. My youngest has just come home from school, so it's excellent timing, and I'm happy to answer any questions in the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aline, for sharing your experience and also highlighting the importance of collaboration in this startup SME environment. Right, so we're on to the Q&A session, and we have a few minutes to answer some of the questions that have been coming through the chat. Well, not through the chat, really, through the Q&A function, but I can't see them. So, okay, there you go. So there's a few questions there about the vouchers and the minimum estate rules, and So I'm going to start taking some of those directly. So I'm going to take the first one, which is about how many of the vouchers are covered by the minimum state aid rules. So we are looking at both de minimis and GBER. So We can't tell for sure an answer on how many of these are going to be given through which route, but we're considering both. So bit more detail will be announced Q1 2021. Now, there's another question about social care that I found really interesting that I would like to ask. Maybe Richard, if you could address that question.
Yeah, I can, Daniel. So, yeah. I mean, we're looking in this project to support companies with products and services which help them progress towards commercialization. So it doesn't really matter whether it's direct clinical or social care, as long as it's actually helping address a key clinical problem or a key healthcare problem, then it's eligible. But it's eligible to be considered. So all I would suggest that you do is you actually contact our kind of team, and then we'll put it through the process. But definitely health and social care is what we're about.
Thank you, Richard. I just want to read a comment from Gary. So the stories are all very well inspiring. Thank you for the speakers. We're approaching at the end of a year pilot with Greater Manchester Health and Social Care Partnership with our app to support people with dementia and those who care for them. In measures of well-being in real time and connects all activities, services. Oh gosh, it's disappeared. Do
you want me to take that one, Daniel?
Yes, please.
Yeah, again, very similar answer. Please get in contact with the project team. I'm very much aware already of your kind of project, Gary, because you applied to our recent Momentum Fund. So I think it's entirely appropriate and suitable for you to contact the team and see what else we can do.
Fantastic. We've got a question from Adrian about the vouchers to be spent with NHS R&I and how would NHS claim the money back. So we intend to give the money to the SMEs directly through a claim back process. But again, more detail around this will be provided because we need to comply with European regulations as well.
Daniel, can it just pop in there?
Yeah.
So just to clarify, the company will have to actually kind of commission or procure the services from an NHS or another supplier. And then once we see evidence of that defrayal, we will then award the voucher to the company. Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Now there's another company about evidence of trading in GM. Do you need to physically be based in GM to be able to apply? Well, no, well, maybe. So let's say that we are negotiating with the ministry in terms of what sort of evidence it's acceptable from the European Regional Development Fund point of view. We are looking into releasing some details about virtual tenancy agreements, but they must satisfy the European auditors. So
just to add to that, Daniel, for everybody interested, and I know James Chapman, it was you who put the actual query in, having a operating base in GM is an absolute prerequisite, but that may be based on a virtual tenancy, as Daniel said, and we're working with Midas to actually provide that as an opportunity to companies to get a virtual tenancy, which we hope, once you see the benefits of engaging with the system, will turn into a longer term kind of real tenancy. We're just, as Daniel said, going through the kind of regulations with the ministry, who are the actual, if you like, commissioners this project, to see that they are satisfied with that. But more details will be announced earlier in the new year.
Fantastic. We've got another question about match funding. No, there's no match funding requirement. We give this under the minimis of GBER 28.4. It's 100%. The costs are 100% covered. Now I want to take the last question for our guest speakers. So Brendan, Rory, and Aline, if she's still around. There is a question about if I have an IP but I have not formed as a trading in Manchester, will I not be allowed? But I have a great idea. Now you've gone through this journey about having a great idea and then making it happen in some shape or form. So what advice can you give about someone that has some great idea and IP, but they're not trading? Shall I start with Aline first, and then we go to Rory and Brendan, if that's okay? Sorry, to Brendan and Rory, if that's okay?
Yeah, I think in terms of if you've got the IP, but you've not formed as sort of a trading company yet, my question to you would be, have you explored your customer segments yet? Have you explored what is it that the problem is that's out there that your IP will solve? If your IP is just a fantastic scientific solution or a new idea or a new concept, then that's great. But actually nobody in the commercial world really cares about that. In my mind, it's what is it that you have will solve, or what problem is it that people have will your IP solve? And that's when you've got a commercial opportunity. So I think if you do a Google search and look up a business model canvas, and actually just have a look at business model canvas, and that really helps you highlight what the problems are, what is your solution, but then all the bits in between, how are then you're going to practically take your new IP and logistically, scientifically package it together to solve your customers' problems, and that's a commercial opportunity. So that would be my suggestion. Before you go to register the company, work that bit out, and then look to see if you've actually got a commercial potential opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aline. Brendan, is there anything you would like to add?
So my honest answer would be I would use all the network of expertise that you've outlined, and I'll ask them because I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
but that's one of the advantages of working in Manchester.
Great. And Rory, would you like to maybe share some advice?
I would agree absolutely with the business canvas approach. So I think you can download that anywhere, and it just gets you to really understand the market. So I agree with that. The other thing I would say is don't be precious, because the one thing we see is people with great ideas who are not flexible in how they want to do things. You might have a fantastic idea, but it might actually be a better idea in a different segment or in a different area. So just be flexible with it. And the other thing I would do, passing the buck to Andy, I'd get involved with Andy and I'd ask his guys to help you with the whole commercial strategy. So I'd be applying for some funding here and trying to get some time from someone else. But the first thing is do the business canvas. It shows you've put your time in. It shows you've looked at the business side before you then are asking others to get involved and help you further.
Daniel, can I add something?
Yes, Andy, please.
Yeah, and first of all, agree with all of the other comments that were made. This is what my organisation does every single day. We look at ideas and we say, do these have value, and how do we turn these into something or do these have potential value? How do we turn these into something that has real value? And there is a process, there's a methodology. As Rory says, it's also about not being precious about it. Sometimes you learn that actually your idea isn't as valuable as you thought it was, or perhaps there's another route or there's another applications. And the best way to test that out is to speaking to other people who've got experience in a particular area, stress testing your ideas, putting them all down on paper, trying to understand what the market need is, as other people have said. And that's one of the things we can do at the Innovation Factory, is help challenge some of the assumptions about new intellectual property, and help develop pathways to take it through to create something that has future economic and social impact.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andy, for those sharing that advice. Right, there's a question about someone that provides consultancy services and whether we're going to have a provider, a list of approved suppliers. We're not sure yet. We are discussing that as we go through with the ministry. So when we announce the vouchers, we'll be clear about whether there's going to be a list of suppliers or it's down to the SME to decide on who they are going to spend the money with. Jonathan asking about company based in Lancashire and whether he can apply to Nexus. Richard, what would you be response to that?
Yes, so obviously this project is all about supporting companies in GM. So if you've got a company based in Lancashire, I mean, this project is not for you unless you are intending to migrate or have an operating base in GM. However, all of the organisations involved here have kind of reached beyond just GM in some respects, or a responsibility. So do contact the Innovation Nexus as a central point, and we can direct you to the appropriate kind of service provision from within our own organisations, such as Health Innovation Manchester or the universities or BioNow, or actually other AHSNs in the network that are outside of kind of our jurisdiction. So, I mean, the first thing is don't be afraid about kind of coming forward to have a chat with us. That's what we're here for. Yeah,
fantastic. Another question about do they have to give any IP to receive the vouchers? And the answer is no. This is not an investment or any equity agreement there. Now, this is an interesting one. So to qualify, should my company should be immediately beneficial to the NHS because we are developing something in the healthcare field, but not immediately applicable in a clinical setting for at least 2 years?
Do you want me to take that, Daniel?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so definitely doesn't have to be kind of on the market in 2 years, because that would be amazing. Because if you look at Rory's studies, you look at Brendan's, I mean, there's a very unusual circumstance. Most things do take a long time to come to, a longish time to come to fruition. This project is all about economic growth with a healthcare benefit at the end. So as long as it's kind of helping your company grow, then we would definitely consider it. Obviously, we're looking at the kind of the impact that it will have on the healthcare setting, and if it's an incredibly niche market, low value one, it might not be as well received as something that's got kind of broader, kind of greater healthcare impact. We have to kind of look to that for kind of, you know, the actual commercial viability of the product as well. So, but again, get in contact with us, and we with the team will actually kind of, you know, talk you through and guide you through that. But just because it's a couple of years away from market shouldn't dissuade you from that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Richard. And I think the others that are on the Q&A function will be answered by these slides. So, you know, we've had the launch of this event, and we're very much looking forward to work with the SME community. There's 2 emails on screen, so you can if you want to have a conversation about the project before making any formal inquiry or submitting your innovation, you can email Vicky or email Mary, Vicky from Health Innovation Manchester, Mary from BioNow. We will be having conversations, informal conversations about this, but do get in touch. Let's have some discussions about how we can collaborate. And we very much look forward to hear from you. Now, I want to thank all of the panelists today, Brendan for taking time from the clinical commitments, and Aline and Rory from being busy chief executive officers of small companies. But it's been really inspiring to see the journeys that you have to go through, and of course all the panelists, Lloyd, Andy, Richard, in terms of sharing their expertise, and Paul. Without further ado, I think it's time to close the event. It's nearly 10 to 4, so I want to thank you, everyone. Please remember, this is going to be streamed on YouTube, and the people will be able to get the slide deck. We just need to check with the speakers that that's okay, and the recording will be available on YouTube. So thank you very much, and look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks everyone.